Okay, good evening, everyone. Baruch Hashem, another daf. We're starting tonight on the top of daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph to learn Nun Tes, and this will take us much of the way down on Nun Tes Amud Beis. If you'll recall, yesterday we had a little bit of an overly detailed discussion about useless bells that no longer have the clapper inside and whether or not it still has the din of a kli. So at the very top line of the page, and it's a remnant of the opinion we saw last night in the name of Rava, the very top line of Nun Tes Amud Aleph says, Hol v'roi lakishu al gabe cheres, that a bell, even without its clapper, is useful because it has that empty cavity inside. It's able to generate sound when, even without a clapper, if you hit it on something that's made out of cheres, you hit it on something that's made out of pottery, it can still make a bit of a ring, and that would be considered reasonable. Itmar, starting on Nun Tes Amud Aleph at the top line. Itmar Nami, we have other statements from the Amoraim. Amar Rav Yossi v'Rav Chanina hol v'roi la'kishu al gabe cheres. This shita of Rava is quoted again. And then the shita of Rav Yochanan. This shita of Rav Yochanan is going to consume the greater part of this daf until, of this Amud, I should say, until the end of the page. What does Rav Yochanan say? Hol v'roi ligmoa bo mayim latino. See, a bell is basically an inverted cup of some kind. So if there's no clapper on the inside, it says Rav Yochanan, don't worry, it's still a kli. It still has the status of being makabel tuma because you can repurpose it. You can take the upside down bell, flip it over, put some water in it, and feed it to a kid. That's a perfect way for a kid to have a cup on the road. What are you going to do? The bell's broken anyways. So that's how Rav Yochanan said that we would be able to repurpose the bell without a clapper in order to make sure that it is still makabel tuma. But the Gemara has a very hard time with this, and that's for the following reason. Rav Yochanan lo bai me'ein malacha rishona. Look at what Rav Yochanan recommended. Rav Yochanan recommended that the reason why we still consider a bell without a clapper to still be a kli and still be makabel tuma is because you can repurpose it. It's a secondary use. It certainly wasn't what the bell maker was thinking when he made the bell. He made the bell to make noise. So what is this guy doing? Rav Yochanan's recommending this guy's taking the bell and turning it over. It's not the malacha rishona. It's not why the device was made, but we're repurposing it. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. Rav Yochanan lo bai me'ein malacha rishona. Doesn't Rav Yochanan hold that it must still be used for its original purpose in order for it to be considered tahor, to be considered tameh, to be considered a kli? Because what you're using it for is to drink water, and that's not why bells were made. So this is the question the Gemara is posing, and the Gemara is going to pose this question from a very out of left field place where we will see Rav Yochanan's comment. Take a look at this. After all, how could Rav Yochanan hold that a secondary purpose of a utensil is still essential enough to keep it tameh and to make it makabel tuma? The Hatanya, the Brisa teaches us, V'chol kli asher yoshev alav v'gomer. This is in regards to a zav. There's a very unique halacha that we've learned in a previous Masechta, that a zav who sits on top of something, instead of what normally happens in regards to tuma, is that if you're up here on tuma level, whatever it is, let's say ava tuma, then you become a rishon. And then the rishon which touches another thing, that becomes a sheni. So usually there's always a degradation. There's always one rung lower on the ladder. However, when it comes to medras, when it comes to tumas moshav of a zav, so there, the same din of the zav applies to the kli. So if he's an avatuma, so then the kli that he sits on is going to be an avatuma. So that's what the pasuk here says. V'chol kli asher yoshev alav. So then the Gemara says, wait a minute, is it everything he sits on or only some things that he sits on? What's the qualification of what he sits on? So no surprise, it's whether or not it's the malacha rishona that we were talking about before. Yachol, you might have thought that kafa sa'ah, you turned over a measuring bucket that's a sa'ah. Just imagine one of those like Home Depot orange buckets you inverted and sat down on. It's not really a chair. It's not really a seat, but people could repurpose it. It's malacha shniya. It's a secondary purpose. So yachol kafa sa'ah b'yoshev aleh, or kafa tarkav, or you turn over another utensil that holds a different size, another volume measurement, b'yoshev aleh yehei tameh. Might have thought that maybe someone who's tameh tumas zav, if he sits on one of these repurposed things, really the malacha rishona is to hold on, is to be a bucket. You flipped it over and sat down. Maybe you would have thought that the tuma of the zav would transfer to that. Says the Gemara, Talmud Lomar, absolutely not. Asher yoshev alav hazav mishum yuchad liyeshiva. The only way that a zav is going to transfer his av hatuma to another item is if he is sitting on something that's miyuchad for yeshiva. He's sitting on a bench, he's sitting on a chair, he's sitting on an ottoman, he's sitting on something that's specific to sitting. then yes, the tuma will travel. You flipped over the Home Depot orange bucket? No, because that's going to be used. Where do we see that? Yatzazeh, to exclude the following. She'omrim lo, where one of the workers will come by and say, Amod, get up, v'naseh malachtenu. I need that bucket to do my job. So what do we see from here? And there's no names here. This is just the Tanakama. When a Zav is going to transfer his tuma to a secondary item, that's only for something that is specific, that's miyuchad yeshiva, but something that's being repurposed, there the tuma doesn't travel. On this brisa, we have a machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Yochanan's shita is going to be critical for us. Let's take a look at these two shitas. Rabbi Elazar omer, b'midrasos omrim, amud v'naseh malachtenu, ve'ein omrim b'tamei meis, amud v'naseh malachtenu. When it comes, like we said, he's basically qualifying the shita of the brisa. What does the brisa say? The brisa says only when it's miyuchad liyeshiva. So he says, yeah, that's true by Tumas Medrash, that when the Zav is going to sit down, will he transfer his status of Avatuma to that which he's sitting on? Then we say it has to be miyuchad liyeshiva. However, he says, ve'ein omrin, says Rabbi Lazar, ve'ein omrin b'tamei meis, when it comes to Tumas Meis, there we don't say, oh, it's something that's miyuchad. There we don't say that it's miyuchad liyeshiva. We don't care what you touch at that point. If a mace is going to touch something, then it's automatically going to become tameh, even if it was not being utilized in its original way. And here comes our shita of Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan Amar, af omer betameh mace. Even in regards to a tameh mace, we still have the din to say that amud v'naseh malachtenu. That if someone, let's say that the mace was touching the bucket, he was propped up on top of this Home Depot orange bucket. So that would not become tameh mace. Why? Because its malacha was for something else. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with building a building and moving bricks and carrying tools. Totally unrelated. So we see that Rav Yochanan takes this idea to the nth degree, that an item is only going to be considered a kli if it is being used for its malacha rishona and not for a secondary malacha. And that goes back to our initial statement of Rav Yochanan. That's on the fourth line of the Gemara, third line of the Gemara, where he says that we could invert the bell and drink out of it. Says the Gemara, no, you can't. That's not right. Because as we saw in the case of Tuma, and therefore by extension the case of Tumas Meis, we saw that Rav Yochanan said that even by Tumas Meis, the Avi Avosa Tuma, that it could not be transferred to an item unless it was being utilized like its Malacha Rishona. Therefore, Rav Yochanan is hard-pressed to come up with his answer that you can invert a bell and that's its use to drink out of it. That's not Malacha Rishona. That's the Gemara's question. Sophisticated question of the Gemara. And the Gemara says, okay, you're right. Let's come up with a simple answer. Epuch kamaisa. I'm going to flip around the shitas that we saw at first. What does that mean, the shitas that we saw at first? So that is the itmar, the statement that we saw in the very first line of the Gemara, where we saw that the opinion of Rav Yossi said that you could use a bell for its original purpose, but without its clapper. Namely, that you could use it to make noise by hitting it on pottery. That works. So now we're going to flip those shita. We said initially that was Rav Yossi, Reb Chanina. The Gemara recommends here, Epuch basraisa, Epuch kamaisa. We're going to flip those initial shitas. So now, if you look back just at the top of the page for clarity here, it says, Amar Rav Yossi, Reb Chanina, hol v'roi l'hakisho al gabe cheres. Now that's the shita of Rav Yochanan. And that's perfect for his shita because he holds with clarity, he holds that as long as it's for its malacha rishona, a bell is to make noise. Okay, so the clapper on the bell is missing. I'm going to utilize the bell in another way that will still make noise. Perfect. And then the second shita about inverting the bell to drink out of it, now that's going to be Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. Kaftor v'ferach, the Gemara's answer works out absolutely perfectly. However, the Gemara says, okay, it is a good answer, but why did you flip that? Umay chazis te ifchas kamaisa. Why is it that you went back to the top of the Gemara and you flipped the opinions of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Yochanan? Why did you do that? Why didn't you say epuch basraisa? That just a few lines above, just now, in regards to this story of Tumah Vitara that we learned, why don't we flip the shitas of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan so that way we can fit the shita of Rabbi Yochanan back with his initial suggestion that the bell can be inverted and it's still going to be considered Tamei Meis? Answers the Gemara, because we have a third source to consider, and that is another source that seems to be Rabbi Yochanan l'shitaso, Hashem inan le Rabbi Yochanan. So says the Gemara, Umay chazis te ifchas kamaisa. Why did we flip around the first shita? Epuch basraisa. We should have flipped the shitas of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, no. Hashem inan le Rabbi Yochanan be'boyi me'ein malacha rishona. Because we have another marimakom that indicates that Another halacha that indicates that Rav Yochanan was of the opinion that it has to be malacha rishona. What was the case? This is actually Ditznan. It's a Mishnah. It's not a Ditanya. It's not a Brisa. The Brisas were never organized into a Sefer. They were always interjected into the Gemara by the Savorei when they constructed the Gemara in the 700s and in the 800s. There's no book of Brisas. We only have them here kind of dropped in throughout. But Ditnan, a Mishnah, that's totally different. The Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Ditnan, the Mishnah writes, Sandal shel behema, some type of footwear that an animal would wear to protect itself. Shel mateches, it's made of metal, tameh. It's going to be considered tameh. Why is it considered tameh? L'may chazi. What use does it have for a person? Says the Gemara a whole bunch of answers. Amar Rav ra'oi lishtos bo mayim b'milchama. Kind of gross, but if you're very thirsty and you can't find a receptacle to drink from, you can take this quasi shoe off of the cow or the horse that you have with you and drink out of it. Not something that you and I probably would have done, even in wartime, but that's the suggestion of Rab. Rav Chanina Omer ra'oi lasuch bo shemen b'milchama. If you have oil and you're not bathing that frequently, you might take some oil and put it in there. You'll dip your fingers in it and then clean yourself off, or you'll use it to make yourself smell a little bit better. Rav Yochanan, take a look at Rav Yochanan's answer. That's Lashitaso. What does Rav Yochanan say? B'shasha boreach min hakrav. When the foot soldier, when the yid is running away from battle, manicho beraglav. He may have to run through some thorns, and his boots are broken, his shoes are broken, so he'll steal the shoes that belong to the animal. He'll steal these mateches shoes, the metal shoes. He'll put them on his legs. Manicho beraglav v'ratz al kotzav ve'ala barkanim. He'll run on thorns and on difficult ground. So what do we see that Rav Yochanan's doing? He's treating a shoe as a shoe. Afal pi, that the shoe belonged initially to an animal. But the fact that we have a third source that indicates that Rav Yochanan always treats a kli like it's malacha rishona makes it that we're going to be epoch kamaisa, that we're going to flip around the shitas at the top of the Yamud between Rav Yossi, Rav Chanina, and Rav Yochanan, as opposed to the one after the Brisa that we learned in the middle of the page between Rav Elazar and Rav Yochanan, to ensure that Rav Yochanan is kept l'shitaso in all three shitas. Namely, let's summarize. Up until this point, we now have everything clear in regards to Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan was of the opinion that the only way that a kli will maintain the status of kli is if it is still functional in some way of its malacha rishona, for that which it was made. If it was being used for something else, you're inverting a bell into a cup, you're using the shoe of an animal to put oil in it. I don't know, making it into a flower pot. All of those cases, according to him, are going to be tahor. It's no longer makabel tumah because you've repurposed. But as long as there's still a remnant of the malacha rishona, of that initial usage of the initial usage of the kli, then it will in fact maintain its status as a kli and still be tameh. In this very last piece of Gemara, the Gemara is just analyzing the various answers that we saw about how to use the shoe of an animal. And here's what the Gemara says. My bein Rav the Rav Chanina. What's the difference between Rav and Rav Chanina? Rav said you can drink out of the shoe. Rav Chanina said you can use it for oil. So it says the Gemara, the difference between them is Ika beinahu demais. If the shoe is very gross, no one's going to drink out of it, but you still might use it for oil. What about bein Rav Yochanan and Rav Chanina? What about between the second and third shita, the shita of the oil and the shita of running in the shoe? Ika beinahu diakir. If the shoe is very, very heavy, so then you can't run very far in very heavy shoes. Big animal, big shoes. So then if you're taking them off of the animal, putting them on your own feet, if they're 10 pounds a shoe, you can't run in that. This is not exercise. So that wouldn't work either. And those are just some minor distinctions between those cases. In our Mishnah, we spoke about this idea called an ir shel zahav. This was some type of piece of jewelry that had emblazoned in it or impressed in it the scene of Yerushalayim. These are decorations that we see all the time. I have a sitter back here on my bookcase that we bought in Eretz Yisrael. It has a scene of Yerushalayim emblazoned in it's coated gold. It's not real gold. It's gold plated, but nevertheless, that's the idea. And women used to wear this as jewelry. And in fact, we'll see that one of the greatest Rabbanim of all utilized this as a gift for his wife. Says the Gemara, "V'lo be'ir shel zahav, my be'ir shel zahav." Last line on Nun Testament Aleph says the Gemara, Rabbi Bar Chana Amar Rav Yochanan. What does he say? Yerushalayim de dahava. It is Yerushalayim made out of gold. Turning to the top of Nun Testament base, Kid'avale Rabbi Akiva ledebisu. Rabbi Akiva made this for his wife. This was a gift that he made for his wife. At the top, there's a reference to a Gemara Maseches Nadarim, a whole story. Okay, not for now. Tanu Rabbanan, we're going to see here a wild machlokas with very far-reaching implications, and and very wide shitas in regards to whether or not it's mutter to wear this ir shel zahav outside. Tanu Rabbanan lo seitze isha be'ir shel zahav. A woman is not allowed to go out in public with the ir shel zahav. Rav Meir was of the opinion that this is a malacha d'oraisa, and if she goes out, obviously b'shogeg, it's not meant that it's just meant to point out that it's an isur d'oraisa to use the language of chayeves chatas. That's a sheet of Rav Meir all the way extreme to one end. Then says the Gemara, what's the middle shita? Lo seitze, okay, relax, Rav Meir, you shouldn't wear it out. But if you do wear it out, it would be pater avalasar, which would be an isur derabana. And then all the way to the opposite extreme of the shita of Rav Meir, and beyond the moderate shita of the Chachamim, is that of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, Omer Yotza Isha Be'ir Shel Zav L'Chatchila. Look at all the shitas. Chayiv midaraisa, potentially chayiv skila if you did it on purpose. Pater avalasar isur derabanan, and then mamish muter l'chatchila. So let's analyze all three of these shitas. B'may kamiflage. What are these rabbanim all arguing about? Rav Meir Savar Masuihu. Rav Meir says, "What are we talking about? You're not allowed to wear this. You're just carrying pashut. It's like you're not. It's not. We don't treat it as jewelry. You're not allowed to wear it. Okay." The Rabbanan Savrei Tachshit, who we do treat it like jewelry, but because it's a unique piece of jewelry, Dilma Shalfa Umichvi Ale Be'asya Le'asuya. We're afraid that Shalfa, you may remove it from your body. You may remove it from however you're wearing it, and Umechav Yale, and you're going to show it to your friends. Be'asya Le'asuya, a beautiful piece of jewelry. Look what I bought. Look what my husband got for me. And then you might violate carrying. So that's an isur d'Rabbanan. Wearing it's an isur d'Rabbanan. It's not wearing it that's the problem. It's the concern that maybe I'll end up not wearing it and show it to someone and walk dalat alas b'rshus harab. The Rabbi Eliezer savar man darka lemeipak be'ir shel zahav. Who was the type of woman who would wear the ir shel zahav in the first place? That's an isha chashuva. That's only someone who was of means, or an isha chashuva, a chashuva rebbetzin, someone who's treating their wife with a lot of chashuvas. For isha chashuva lo mishlaf pamachavia. She would never do that. An isha chashuva would not do that. L'dugma, lahavdil. The Queen of England is not going to remove her brooch to show one of her friends. But she's an isha chashuva. She's not going to show everybody what she got from her husband. It's just not happening. So that was the third shita here, is that we're not gozer in this case, according to Rabbi Eliezer, because it's uncommon for an isha chashuva to take this type of action and remove a piece of jewelry to show it to someone. We spoke about in our Mishnah as well, kalila. We spoke about a tiara. So there are different types of tiaras. And here there's a machloketz about what the shita of Rav was. We'll see two versions here. Kalila, wearing a tiara. Rav asar u'shmuel shari. Rav said that she's not allowed to wear a tiara. And Shmuel said that it's permissible. So it says the Gemara as follows. Everyone agrees that if it's made out of gold, everyone agrees that if the tiara is made out of gold, that's something that a woman is not allowed to wear out in public. That's for sure. When do they argue? When it's an arukta. An arukta is a fabric garment that has gems stitched onto the garment. So it's different. They may have gold and silver on it. It's very hush of a garment. It's not inexpensive. It's beautiful, but it wasn't all gold like the initial version. So where do Rav and Shmuel argue? So the Gemara's first blush is that they don't argue when it's all gold. Everyone agrees that's also. Where do they argue? They only argue with this fabric that has the gems woven into it. Mar savar anischa ikar, umar savar arukta ikar. According to Rav, anischa, the gold, the gems that are stitched in are the ikar, and therefore it's just like it's just like something that's all made out of gold, and therefore asr. However, Mar Savar, the other opinion holds arukta ikar, really the fabric is the ikar and the gems are tafel, and therefore that would be the sheet of Shmuel, that it's permissible to wear out an arukta in public. Rav Ashi Masni Lakula, he taught all of this differently. What did he teach? The arukta, he taught, remember we started previously with the leniency. We started previously with the stringency, that everyone agreed that the gold one was prohibited. So it says the Gemara, Lav Dafka, Rav Ashi flipped this on its head. The arukta, both Rav and Shmuel agree that with the fabric with the gems stitched in, there dekule alma lo pligi deshari. Everyone agrees that that's mutter. Ki pligi, where do they argue? They argue de anischa. They argue in regards to the ir shel zahav, this piece of jewelry that's all made out of gold. Mar savar dilma shalfa machavia v'asila asuye. According to Rav, he says that we're concerned that a woman's going to remove it and show it to her friends, and she may end up carrying, and therefore we're not allowing her to wear out the gold ir shel zahav. Umar savar, Shmuel was of the opinion, man darka lemepak bekelila isha chashuva. Who's the one who would wear this tiara to start with? Sorry, I said the ear shells up. We're speaking about tiaras here. Who is the woman who, in general, would wear a kalila, the tiara? That's an isha chashuva. Isha chashuva lo shalfa machavia. That woman would never remove this piece, this tiara, to show her friends. So that's the machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Which one of these is right? Do we say that it's like the strict version, that everyone agrees that the solid gold version is usher, and there's only a machlokes in regards to the cloth version? Or do we say like the second version, that everyone agrees that the cloth version is permissible, and there's a machlokes in regards to the one that's made out of all gold? So here we have the answer to the Gemara right in the middle of the page, Nun Testament Beis, Amar Le Rav Shmuel Bar Bar Chana Le Rav Yosef, Beferish Amrslan Mishmei de Rav Kalila Shari. Here we have the sheet of Rav that a kalila is permissible. Now, between these two stories, there's only one iteration that actually works out that Rav was lenient. And that's in the version of Rav Ashi, the second version, where we said that everyone agrees that the cloth version with the gems stitched in, that's the one where everyone said it was shari, because there is no other aspect that Rav would have allowed. So therefore, the second version must be correct. And therefore, in short, tiaras, everyone agrees that if the tiara is going to be made out first and foremost out of fabric, so then it would be fine. But if it's all made out of solid gold, then that would not be fine. Says the Gemara, Amrulei l'Rav Acha, Amrulei l'Rav, excuse me. They said to Rav, Asa Gavra Rabba Aricha l'Naharda. There is a very great and tall man who came to Naharda from Eretz Yisrael, Umitla. He's a man who has a limp. The Darash, and he taught the following din that he had learned in Eretz Yisrael. What did he teach? The din that he taught was Kalila Shari, just like you, Rav. He said the same exact din. He taught that a Kalila was Shari. Omar, Rav said, Man Gavra Rabba Aricha de Idla Levi. It must be that the person who's coming into town was Levi. He knew that Levi was tall. He knew that Levi was a Talmid Chacham, and he knew that Levi had a limp. And he also knew the following: Shma Mina, the fact that Levi has showed up here in Bavel, in Naharda, teaches me that his Rosh HaYeshiva must have died, and his Chavrusa, Reb Chanina, became the Rosh HaYeshiva. Shma Mina, Nach Nafshe, the Rabbi Afes. The Rabbi Afes must have died, the Rosh HaYeshiva, and his Chavrusa, V'yasi Reb Chanina, Beresha, and he was made into the Rosh HaYeshiva. So now he had no Chavrusa anymore. His Chavrusa became the Rosh HaYeshiva, and his Rebbe died. So why stay in Eretz Yisrael under those circumstances? You're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael for Talmud Torah. So he got on a boat and he went to Narda. V'lo havale inish l'Levi l'mesav gabein. He had no one to sit and to learn with. B'ka'asi lahacha, and he came to Eretz Yisrael to learn. So says the Gemara Vidilma, maybe that's not what happened, Rav. Maybe Nachnashe Reb Chanina, maybe his Chavrusa died. The Rav Apis Kedekai Kai, and the Rosh HaYeshiva was still in place. Below Havale Inish Lalevi Lemesav Gabai Vikasi Lacha, and still, nevertheless, his Chavrusa still passed away, and he had no one to learn with. And you're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael for Talmud Torah. So then he went to Narda. He went to the next epicenter of learning back in those days, probably the epicenter of learning back in the day. So says the Gemara, that can't be. Im Isa Reb Chanina Shachiv Levi the Rav Efes Mechav Hava Kayifle. Had it been that in fact Rav Chanina died, Levi would have stayed and he would have been Kayif. He would have subjugated himself to his Rebbe Rav Apis. He wouldn't have left at all. It's different when you need a Chavrusa, but when your Rebbe is still alive, you stick around. Vesu, and furthermore, it had to be the Reb Chanina. Vesu, the Reb Chanina lo Sagi the lo Malach. It's not possible that he didn't end up ruling, that he didn't end up becoming the Rosh HaYeshiva. The Chiyavakoi Nicha Nafshe, the Rebbe, when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was about to die, Omar, he said, Chanina Reb Chama Yossi Berosh. He said about Reb Chanina that he was going to be the next Rosh HaYeshiva. Uchsiv behu b'tzadikim. It says about the righteous, V'sigzor omer v'yakom lach v'gomer. There's no way that someone like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was going to be wrong about whether or not this person was going to become the Rosh HaYeshiva. So therefore, our initial version of the story is assumed to be correct, that Rav had inferred that it must be the Rav Apis died, and Reb Chanina, who was Levi's Chavrusa, and ended up being the Rosh HaYeshiva. Levi didn't have a Chavrusa, and he came to Naharda, and he came to learn by Rav. Darash Levi taught the following. Darash Levi bin Naharda, he taught in the city of Naharda. Remember, he's the newbie. He came from Eretz Yisrael. Kalila Shari, he taught this in that a Kalila is permissible to wear. Instantly, Nafik Esrin va'arba Kalila mikula Naharda. 24 women walked out of their homes and they started wearing these Kalila, these tiaras. They initially thought it was usher. Now they were told that it's permissible to wear. Darash Rabba bar Avua b'Mechuza Kalila Shari. Rabba, the son of Avua in the city of Mechuza, also taught that a kalila is shari, that you can wear a tiara. V'nafku and v'nafku tamne srei kalila mechada mavoa. From one mavui, from one alleyway, which was attached to people's homes, 18 women walked out of the home with these tiaras. All of a sudden, they just found out that it's permissible. One more similarly typed garment. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Shmuel. This is very rare. Usually it's Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. We know that Yehuda was a Talmud of Shmuel, but the language of Rav Shmuel is very uncommon. Is it a typo? Is it a reference to a different Shmuel? That's a good question. But the fact that it's Yehuda, the Talmud of Shmuel indicates that it's like we would normally have thought that Yehuda was a Talmud of Shmuel. Nevertheless, nothing in the Gemara that clarifies one way or the other. So we'll take it at face value that we're not 100% sure. Amar of Yehuda, Amar of Shmuel. Kimara, to wear a belt, shari, that's permissible. Ika de amri, it depends. Some people say de arukta, only if it's made out of fabric with gems on it. And then in that circumstance, Amar of Safra, midi de havia talis museb. It's just like a talis that had gold emblazoned in it. The Ika de amri de anischa, that the belt was made out of gold itself. Amar of Safra, midi de havia avnet shel malachim. And maybe the gold belt would be similar to that of an avnet of a malachim, to that of the belt of a king. Either way, Rav Safra was able to give precedence to this type of belt. And someone just asked a question. Hang on one second. Is there anything special with the number of women that wore them out? No idea. I have no idea. Good question.
They were rich girls, rich families.
The Gemara doesn't indicate one way or the other. It's also a little unclear because we're still not 1,000,000,000% sure if we paskin like Rav or Shmuel, seemingly like Rav from the Gemara. And if it's like Rav, then this was not solid gold. They were made out of fabric with gems on them. So a woman would be wearing, like, I guess what a woman would wear over her sheta line with like gold beads on them, something along those lines. I don't know exactly what it looked like. So lav dafka that they were, filthy rich. It's kind of hard to determine exactly what the case is, but
well, like you wear a talus, a tara on your talus,
Yeah, maybe similar. That may be similar. A good comparison. That's what the Gemara. The Gemara says this here, but it says talus muzhebis, but that's not talking about the tiara. That's talking about something else. That's talking about the belt. So I'm not 100% sure, but according to Rav, the only version that was permissible was not one that was made out of solid gold, but rather one that was made out of a blend of fabric plus gems. Either way, we're back here in the sugya of the belts. So we said there were two versions.
Just like you have on your talus, the Torah, some are sewed down, some are Velcro down, and some are snapped down.
We're going to see that that's actually we're going to see that that's actually factored into the Gemara with a different garment. We'll see that in a couple of lines. But here the Gemara does not make that distinction. We assume that the belt is held on securely by whatever fastening is used on the belt. So the Gemara has this chakira. Do we say that the belt is this fabric with gems on it, and Rav Safra brought the precedent from a talis that had gold on it, like our talesim, like you're saying, Rabbi Aryeh? Or no, is it really a gold belt, and Rav Safra brought the precedent from the belt of kings that they're allowed to wear them? Amar le Ravina the Ravashi, Kamara ilui hemyana mai. Is one allowed to wear a kamara, this fancier belt, on top of a regular belt? The Gemara answers with a rhetorical question, and Rashi's not sure which way the rhetoric goes, which is really fascinating. The Gemara says, Amar le trei hemyane kamras. You're talking about two belts? So Rashi takes it in two directions. Either, of course, you could wear two belts. Why can't you wear two belts? Sure, have a good time, wear two belts. And the other version of Rashi is, of course, you cannot wear two belts. Why would anybody wear two belts? That's extraneous. So these are two different versions of Rashi from this rhetorical question. Amar Ravashi, hi risuka. This risuka is defined in the art scroll as that garment that people would wear to make themselves look thinner, a corset, and they would tie them tightly on themselves to make themselves look a little thinner. Hi risuka, if it had these loops on them to keep it tied on, shari, then a woman could wear that out. But if not, she would not be allowed to wear it out, lest it be simple for one to take it off and show it to other people. We learned about this already, some type of choker, some type of necklace, and in particular, my katla, menakta pare, menakta, to gather. Pare, from the word pere, is actually crumbs. These are words that might be familiar from the beginning of Maseches Psachim. And that is basically, as we spoke about the other day, this type of ornate food collection, like a bib of some kind that a woman would wear but it was chashuv. It wasn't stam. It wasn't like a cheapy fabric thing that we use on our kids when we're trying to feed them things. It was a chashuv thing, and they would treat it very nicely, and it really had a nice look to it. So nevertheless, that's what they did. And as Rashi, as the Gemara mentioned over there, women would wear this tightly to accentuate the fact that they may have a little fat on their neck to show that they were wealthy enough to be fat. And that was a sign that of wealth then, and a woman would specifically wear it that way. Last three words of the night, Nizamim, what were the nose rings? What were the rings, I should say? Nizmei ha'af, only specifically talking about the nose rings. So we'll stop here tonight and pick up in Yirtzeh Hashem tomorrow night into a new set of blog. We're going to be in the Samechs now, so we're starting Yirtzeh Hashem tomorrow with Daf Samech. Have a beautiful night, everybody.